If you were wondering why Republican senators sounded like QAnon-obsessives in the confirmation hearing for Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, it is because, apparently, that is exactly the constituency they are catering to. That is why, apparently, they spent the past few days attacking her for supposedly being soft on criminals convicted of possessing child abuse material, even after that particular smear was widely debunked. And as one of my next guests reports in the New York Times, it may all be part of a plan to fire up the right-wing conspiracy-loving base. Quote, the online world of adherents to the QAnon conspiracy theory sprang into action almost as soon as Senator Josh Hawley tweeted his alarm that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson had handed down sentences below the minimum recommended for possessing images of child sexual abuse. An apologist for child molesters, one QAnon supporter declared in a video the next day, asserting without evidence Democrats were repeatedly elevating pedophiles and people who can change the laws surrounding punishment for pedophiles. Judith Brown-Dianis is the executive director of the civil rights group The Advancement Project. Stuart Thompson's a reporter at the New York Times covering misinformation and disinformation. He co-wrote that story I just quoted from, titled QAnon Cheers Republican Attacks on Jackson. Democrats See a Signal. And Stuart, maybe I'll start with you and just talk a little bit about how this, and I think it was very notable to anyone that watched a hearing, this was the thing that a huge amount of time was spent on by Republicans, specifically certain Republicans who were sort of most anxious to appeal to the base on this, and how that resonated with QAnon folks online.
Yeah, well, this is a long-held belief among QAnon followers that there's rings of child exploitation, elites, engaging in that kind of behavior, and so it's a pretty, they're primed to pick up on that. You don't have to go very far with it for them to grab onto it, and that's exactly what they did. So after Senator Hawley tweeted about it, the communities that we follow seized on that idea, and it's now quickly becoming a part of the lore in those communities. And this wasn't something that we saw in confirmation hearings last year and, in previous contexts for Supreme Court confirmation hearings. So it really does seem to be reflecting the fact that a lot of Republicans and Trump-supporting Republicans do follow this conspiracy theory. We have polling from last year that showed 40% of Trump followers know about QAnon, and 3 out of 10 believe in it. So that's a pretty big constituency that they seem to be appealing to.
Judith, what was going through your head as you were watching these hearings and watching this? I found really quite disgusting, repeated questions along this line to the judge.
Well, because I do think this, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist about conspiracy theorists, but it was a particular crime that they kept honing in on. And so we do need to understand the connection to QAnon and the idea that they're trying to feed this group of far-right people with ideas that continuously question the legitimacy of the institutions of our democracy. And so it's whether it's the elections or now the Supreme Court, they're feeding them. And these are the same people who showed up on January 6th. And so we should be worried about them stoking the fires, but also the fact that they have associated a Black woman with being soft on crime, which then kind of signals this criminality issue around Black people in general, is problematic. And, this is, whether it was this or the Guantanamo Bay questioning, they continue to have this story about soft on crime. And that is also catering to the midterms and ginning up their base for the midterms, as well as the conversation about race theory, critical race theory.
Yeah, let me just follow up with you, Judith. Part of this, Stuart's reporting, I think, on this is excellent. It's not an accident. There's a sort of hand in glove between this sort of conspiracy theory about child exploitation. But also, to me, I saw good old fashioned bad demagogic law and order politics that I've watched for my whole career, that I've seen in New York City, which is that any lawyer, any judge that ever gives a sentence that's a downward departure is opening themselves up in the future to you're soft on crime, you're soft on crime. And it's part of the reason that politics, that we incarcerate more people than anyone else basically in the planet.
That's right. This was 1994, Chris. We were back in that moment where this really was about we've got to lock up more people, law and order. But, this is the narrative that's being used throughout the country to roll back some of the progress that has been made in taking a hit at mass incarceration.
And Stuart, how conscious does your reporting indicate this sort of cultivation is among these politicians?
Well, it's hard to say, but I think, we can't get in the heads of the politicians, but the numbers sort of speak for themselves in terms of the polling that's available. So those are pretty big demographics. We're talking millions and millions of people. And, if you're a Trump supporting Republican, the odds of, being acquainted with QAnon's theories go up. There's another segment as well of people who are sort of adjacent to the conspiracy under the banner Save the Children. That's sort of ideas that a lot of people can get behind, but they do have roots in those communities. So whether or not they're, floating the actual conspiracy or just pandering to the base, it's hard to say, but we certainly see it happening.
Yeah, I will say, I said it before, I'll say it again, that the sort of conspiracy of a small group of elite, powerful people being behind the exploitation of children is a somewhat comforting one insofar as the reality of the exploitation and abuse of children is that is shockingly common and done by people that are adjacent and trusted. And everywhere you look, whether it's Josh Duggar, who posed with Ted Cruz, or Dennis Hastert, the longest-serving Republican Speaker of the House. That's the reality, the grim reality of it, not some secret cabal. Judith Brown, Deanna, and Stuart Thompson.